Joe Nickel, Madhouse Productions, choreographer. Yeah. How's that working out?
It's it's a hard business, but it's what we want. It's what I want to do.
How would you describe, as a choreographer, your style? Because I immediately, my mind goes back to like MGM in the 1940s. Fred Astaire, Ginger Rogers. It's changed a lot since then.
Just a bit. Yeah. But those are they're the kings and queens of the industry. Still, they're still respected. The style of Madhouse Productions and what I've liked to do and what my background comes from is very commercial dance based. It's very production. It has a live show, regardless of what we do is on film or on stage. It has a very in your face, right in front of you style to it.
Entertainment.
Yeah, lots of energy.
But there's still got to be art in that style, I would think.
Yeah.
So how do you approach putting together a new piece?
I sit down. I work with a friend of mine, Chad Robert, and we sit around and we pick at some concepts, and that brainstorming session, a lot of things can be created from it. We go from there. We see some stuff we like. We get inspired by other things happening in the city, and see what happens.
This is one of those areas where I just have no natural talent. I couldn't even imagine coming up with movements. I think probably the best dance work I ever did on a dance floor was crossing from one end to another when I was tipsy, and I may have even gotten applause. So do you kind of just like look in a mirror and be like, ooh, that looks good?
I look great doing it.
Yeah, how do you come up with new things?
It's funny to me because people say to me all the time, "Oh, I cannot dance," and I say, "You're wrong. Everybody can dance, but not everybody can dance well." Mm-hmm. Right?
I will vouch for that. Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. It's everyone. We all have our passion in our art, and we're in a great dance studio now, and there's mirrors in the dance studio for a reason, so you can see what you look like. I think all good artists, you have to see what you're not good at in order to discover what you're good at. When you're putting on and producing, directing shows like I am, the first thing is what's my audience gonna like. I want to sell tickets. I want to pack the house, and I think that the good thing about commercial dance is that it's always very high energy, it's fast-paced moving, the style that I do. So I think people that even aren't into dance and they don't know a lot about dance still can come and enjoy it.
And feel something from it.
Mm-hmm.
So what then is when you're putting together a piece, what do you want your audience to feel? What do you want them to walk away with? I want them to realize, doing shows here in Pittsburgh, I want them to realize that there is a lot of talent here in Pittsburgh, and that they go, wow, I took the time, I took a risk to come out to this show, and I'm going to do this again, because there's a million great companies out there putting on fantastic shows. Now, would you consider your shows risky?
They have been now, yeah. And I've had some compliments and some critiques to say, we liked it when it went a little risque.
Now, is that clothing or suggestive movements?
It's a great equation of all that. Yeah.
Now, is that a necessary element in commercial dance? Is that sort of risque, burlesque sort of?
I think it helps. Sex sells to a degree, but there's a fine line between a very risque act on stage, but still having class behind it. And I think all of our acts in this upcoming show that we're working on is risque. I've added some risky business in there, but it's definitely classy. It's definitely still...
Well, that's kind of, as far as I understand it, the essence of the art of burlesque.
Right.
I think if folks who don't really understand what that term means think it's just like, well, let's take our tops off,
Yeah.
But it's actually the art of the conceal, never the reveal.
Exactly.
And how you go up to that line but don't cross it. And that really is an art.
Well, and it gets people wanting more.
Yeah, that's the ticket.
That's the selling piece.
You got it.
And we do that. And this time we brought on, I have two fantastic performers, and they've studied, and their art is burlesque. It's an art. You'll see it and you'll say, that's an art form. That is the style of an art form. It's cool.
I live for, whenever I can see a production done in the style of the old-time burlesque shows, which, weren't just a woman up there with big fans, covering herself. There were, body comedians, there were jugglers. It was a production. And that kind of seems a little bit like these shows that Madhouse is producing. In fact, it's called Burghlesque, isn't it?
Burghlesque.
Tell me a little bit about Burghlesque.
There's no typo.
Oh, yeah,
It's
right.
Burghlesque.
Oh, I got it. Are there people that don't get that?
I've had people say, I think you spelled it wrong.
Are they serious? They're not from Pittsburgh.
I hope not.
That's shameful. Burghlesque. I thought that was very clever. In fact, if you hadn't have taken that, we might have named this show Burghlesque. It
beat
might
you
have
to
worked.
it.
I know.
Sorry.
Congrats. No, it's very clever.
You have a great show.
We get it. We get it.
Yeah, so the reason we named it that is that, I've came across and have met, since being back in Pittsburgh, some great entertainers and performers, singers, dancers, drag queens, comedians, real burlesque performers, magicians, and I've met them probably from seeing them on stage doing other shows. And they said, if I can bring an interesting group of people, put together an hour-long show, and all those things I just named are all parts of the old school burlesque shows that we've talked about. There was always singing, there was dancing, there was acting, there was comedy, there was magic, there was the reveal, there was all that good stuff. So I said, let's put it together in a show, and I decided to deconstruct it where there's sections of all those throughout the show. It moves very fast-paced, and and it all works out. It gives you a little bit of everything.
And I'd say, I mean, you're clearly then kind of director and producer of this too.
I am, yeah.
I mean, you're really a showman putting together a great night of entertainment.
Yeah.
And yeah, all of those things as you listed there, I don't know how you're going to fit them into 1 hour, but I think you got enough for 3 at least.
It works, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what do you feel is the hallmark of a good dancer? When you see a dancer, what strikes you as that's talent?
I think what's for live theater, the performance value of a dancer is great. Myself, being trained in dance, I always look at the technique of a dancer. So I'm looking at their feet. I'm looking at the way that what training they've had. That's almost my judgment. Like anyone who's an artist in the category that they're an artist in, for dance, I might look at that. But the other 98% of the audience is looking at the waist up, and looking at the performance and the engagement in a crowd, in the audience.
Do you feel that my lack of shame might make up a little bit for my lack of talent?
If it's attractive, if your lack of shame makes the audience feel good somehow or engaged, I think they're going to.
All right.
Yeah, there's that passion and that desire for when you meet really good talent, you just want to work with everybody.
Yeah.
You do. You're like, I want to be on stage with all of you.
That's kind of why I do this show, because I want to sit down and have a drink with everybody. Do you get around to watching any of these?
There's a few of them. Yeah.
These dance show, like Dancing with the Stars, and I use the term loosely. One thing we haven't seen in a television show is dancing with drag queens. I think that might be interesting. Picture all in heels, I mean, that would be something.
Yeah, ratings.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
We're trying to bring a high-energy entertainment to the theater scene in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, with a name like Madhouse, I would have to assume it's not sedate. Her job, how Cher kind of ran the place, and she kind of emceed, and she was like in like an opening number. That, regardless of what anybody has ever heard me say in my life, that is my dream job. That's a pretty cool hat.